One quarterback transferred down, one possibly to go. Mark Rogers TV surveying the various quarterback situations across the country. Everett Golson moved down to Florida State. Does Braxton Miller leave Columbus? We bring in Ben George of Tide at 99.1 to break down the Alabama quarterback situation. And until an official announcement's made, Ben, about Braxton Miller, of course, there's always the possibility, though it kind of slims itself down day by day.
Yeah, you have to think the later we go that the less likely it is for him to end up in Tuscaloosa. But there's still a number of people that feel that there's a good chance Braxton Miller does, in fact, end up at Alabama to play the 2015 season for Nick Saban. The session one of the summer school is underway in Tuscaloosa, so he won't be a part of that. Couldn't be a part of that. There's still a second summer session. But, most players are getting on campus now. You would expect a quarterback that would hope to be playing next year to be on as soon as possible to learn some things and start getting the system and getting familiar with everyone. But, it still hasn't happened up to this point. And until we hear from Braxton Miller, we've heard a lot of second-hand information and third-hand info. But until we hear from him directly, I wouldn't rule it out until maybe we get into July. Then in SEC Media Days, if he's still not around, then it's probably too late by then. But he'd be a great addition to this team, and I still think they'd welcome him if he came. But I'm starting to feel that it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, his health is in question to a certain extent, and if he's not healthy, I can't imagine him leaving Columbus. All right, let's talk about the guys that are actually in camp and ready to compete this August. And there's 5 guys in total. It really comes down to 2 guys in particular. The favorite for a second consecutive year, Jake Coker, and, of course, David Cornwell, the redshirt freshman. So kind of size us up on what these guys bring to the table and what you're looking at right now.
Yeah, here we are once again for the second straight year with Jake Coker as the favorite. At least going into spring, he was the favorite to win the quarterback job. He was toe-to-toe with Blake Sims last year, but got beaten out. Blake had a record-breaking year for Underlane Kiffin for Alabama. So you would assume that he'd be the odds-on favorite, but didn't blow away anybody in spring. Didn't have an outstanding A-Day game. And David Cornwell's right there with him, the redshirt freshman. He got a lot of snaps through spring practice, and you think even ESPN's Chris Lowe thinks they could be leaning towards Cornwell getting the job. And I think if it comes down to if both guys are even, and this is going to go into fall. This is going to go into fall camp and up until game time. And we might even see the same situation we had last year where Coker and Sims took snaps against West Virginia. Now I think Nick Saban would want one quarterback to be in place before Wisconsin. It's a little tougher opponent this year. But it could be that case as well. But I think if it comes down to a tiebreaker, potentially, if everything else is even, you might lean towards a guy that's a little bit younger and is going to be back in the system for a couple more years and just ride with him the first year. If Coker hasn't separated himself by this point, after being on campus for 15, 16 months, then there's no reason to think he's going to take that next step and do it unless the other options aren't any good. So, to answer your question succinctly, it's going to go up until the first game of the year, and it could be either one of those 2 guys.
Hey, Ben, do you hear or see with your own eyes a clear distinction in talent between these 2 guys?
Look, Jake Coker has all the tools. I think his biggest problem is, especially for Nick Saban, who doesn't want his quarterback making a lot of mistakes. A lot of the guys have gotten game manager tags, whether that's fair or not. But you want a guy that can manage the game and doesn't make a lot of throws in poor decisions, throws in tough spots, and Coker's done that pretty frequently. I mean, it's not frequently, I guess, relatively speaking, compared to other Alabama quarterbacks who have protected the ball pretty well. So he has to avoid doing that, and he hasn't done it. But he's got all the tools physically. Cornwell's looked good as well, though. But he still made some mistakes. He threw 2 interceptions in the A-Day game. There were, I think, 7 total interceptions in that game, so nobody really flourished. But they both have the tools. They both have the skills to be there. It's all mental, and whether or not they can just manage the game and not put their team in a bad position.
Yeah, regardless of the team, regardless of the style of offense, the quarterback's the most important guy on the field. You mentioned the term game manager. Greg McElroy, game manager. A.J. McCarron, at least at the outset of his starting experience at Alabama, termed a game manager. So if the game manager's in place in this offense this year, then the quarterback importance is minimized, but it's still extremely important, especially when you've got an offensive coordinator who really wants to open up the playbook.
Yeah, I think the only person to be upset about it would be Lane Kiffin if they didn't have a guy that was ready to sling the ball around, because a lot of people feel that this team's just a good quarterback away from being potentially a championship team. Now, look, that's really tough. It's a big stretch, right? I mean, they've had #1 recruiting classes for 5 straight years, so it's not like I'm going on a limb by saying that. But the thought is that right now, with the quarterback situation where it is, this team might lose a game or two. But if they can get that position solved, at least to where a guy is going to run the offense, put him in a good position, manage the game, make the deep throws when they need to, but not take the chances. Let that defense, the defensive line is going to be the strength of this team. Let that defense set the tone as it has in the past under Nick Saban. So, they're one really good quarterback away, and it might be one of these two guys. If they take a big step through the summer, we saw Blake Sims do it. Blake Sims was not a starting quarterback, and he was not a guy that anybody expected would set the single-season passing record at Alabama a year ago when they got out of spring camp. But he worked hard over the summer, improved, learned the playbook more, and got comfortable under Lane Kiffin, and we saw what he did. So there could still be that guy. There's still the tools there. If it can just click with somebody that's already in the system, you might have him already. But I think the feeling is this team could be pretty special if they find that guy.
Okay, Ben, between Coker and Cornwell, I want you to lay the odds. What are the odds of either one of these guys starting game one? What's our ratio?
Well, I think you're probably at about 80. I'd say you're probably at about 90% that one of the two guys will start.
Oh, hang on. You had to tie me down to my words, didn't you? You had to take me.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go further from there. I'm just gonna start at the 90% that it's gonna be one of those two guys. The 10% maybe for Braxton Miller. I don't think it's going to be anybody outside of those two that are on campus now. Blake Barnett obviously could be the future, but I don't think he's there yet. So I would probably say at this point I'd probably lean 52-48 Cornwell maybe. I mean, I don't know. I really think it's a toss-up at this point, but I just don't feel, and it's just my opinion, that if Coker hasn't gotten to where the coaches want him to this point, so I feel like they want to give him the job. I feel like they want him, maybe not to give him the job, but they want him to go ahead and take it. And they had hoped and expected him to, and he hasn't. So I give Cornwell a slight edge, but I wouldn't be surprised if something crazy happens and it's neither of those guys.
Ben Georgia, Tide 99.1, always delivers when we ask him to. Bring him on here to break down Alabama football. Good stuff, Ben. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Mark. Enjoyed it.